This book is for anyone and anybody, no matter your current financial status, what background you came from, what situation you're in, and the environment you live in. This is the book for people who want to get their money up and hopefully change their mindset and perspective on the value of money. This book will offer methods and my personal experiences in financial situations that I use, whether it be saving and investing and doubling my money. I have been in the money, taking, and making game for a good while now, and I see all these sketchy so-called money gurus talk about how if you buy their book and courses, you'll get rich. And I hated those annoying-ass videos, especially since I was a kid with no money. So I thought to myself, if anyone should make a book about actually getting their money up, I think it should be me. I think, due to my recent experiences of developing the passion and discipline for getting my money up than most people. I'm very paranoid that I'll die before I'm 18, which is one of my drives that keeps me productive. The reason why I'm writing this book is so that my friends and family use my experiences to get their money up as well. Instead of dying with this knowledge I have obtained, I would like to share this information with anyone who bothers to read this. It would make me really happy if this self-made book can at least make an impact in someone's life who lives and breathes. Remember, no matter who you are or where you are in the world, you can do anything you put your mind to with lots of commitment and taking action. Although I have no experience in writing books whatsoever, I'll try to get my 2 cents out into the world about getting your money up, even if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Regardless, the main purpose is to provide the readers with my knowledge and experiences and accumulating wealth by getting their money up with my methods. I hope once you're done with reading this book, it was worth your time reading and you got something out of this, changing your life and mindset about how you view and handle money. If you'd ask me the question, would you rather choose to have a vast amount of money instead of the knowledge I have obtained that provides me with the methods of getting my money up, I would rather keep my knowledge than having a vast amount of money. Because how could you get your money up in the first place if you have no knowledge of gaining wealth whatsoever? How to get your money up. If I was broke with no money whatsoever, how would I get my money up? I'm sure from time to time you have been outside and came across loose change, such as quarters and dimes. In my opinion, it's the best kind of money in the world. It bothers me that people tend to take it for granted, not even bothering to pick it up, or in some instances, throwing the change in the garbage and dropping it in the streets. And yes, this man came out of a liquor store and threw his pocket change on the floor. This almost gave me a migraine. However, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and I'll be glad to pick it up. It's the dumbest thing a person can do, but for me, it's just another lucky day. According to the United States government, it has reported that in 2016, that an estimated $62 million in coins are lost in circulation. Accumulating pocket change eventually adds up to a lot of money. And if $62 million are technically lost or uncirculated, and people are financially struggling because we just don't value it enough to hold on to it, and then blame the government for the situation we're in? My advice, blame yourself for not picking up every single cent you can come across. There's money all over the country for free. You just gotta keep a careful eye. If you find coins made before 1964, they are worth more than they appear to be, since they are made of pure silver and can be worth a good amount. In my experience of trying to find coins, I would go underneath vending machines to see if anyone has dropped any change. And a majority of the time, there is change under the snack and soda machines. And I would always press the change button because the majority of people don't even bother to reclaim their spare change. Be also on the lookout under the arcade machines as well, and any other machines that requires money in order to use. Make sure you look under couches, wardrobes as well. Although, in my experience, the best place to hit the jackpot is going underneath Coinstar machines, since its number one purpose is literally to convert coins into cash. Back during Thanksgiving, I went to buy groceries at Julasco with my family. I decided to wander off and find any machines that may have spare change underneath. One of them was a Coinstar machine. I looked down and put my hands under the machine, and a ridiculous amount of coins came out under the machine. $30 worth of coins. I managed to get out from under the machine. I will always remember that day as a blessing until the day I die. It felt like the greatest day of my life because it's just a ridiculous amount of money hiding in plain sight. In order to get as much change under any machine as possible, since the coins are in tight spaces and your arm can only reach so far, I recommend purchasing a telescope back scratcher. It's basically an extendable tool and is used for scratching your back in places your arms can't usually reach. However, you can also use it to reach places under machines where your arms can't usually be able to fit or reach. This tool is going to be your best friend and will pay for itself, and in my opinion, it's the greatest tool known to man. When doing this kind of thing, be aware people will give you weird looks and judge you thinking you're a bum or a crazy person and give you shit for it. However, you must always remember, and this goes for anything you do in general, no matter what people say about you or how they perceive you, if they ain't your mom or your dad and they don't provide you food or a roof over your head, what they have to say about you does not matter whatsoever. You gotta do what you gotta do to live and get by in this world. If scrounging for spare change ain't enough, have you ever heard of people donating blood to help people who require it? Now, why would I mention this since you won't get your money up from donating blood? Well, what if I told you there were places where you can go and donate a certain type of blood and in return, they will pay you in cash? Yes, you heard me right. They will give you money for the plasma in your body. Now, you might be wondering, what's plasma? Plasma is basically a fluid in the blood that helps provide nutrients and supplements that aid organs in the body to defeat diseases and to help your body recover from any injuries you may have had, and is used frequently as well in order to prevent further sicknesses and illnesses and even death itself. Since plasma provides many benefits to your body, it is a very valuable fluid, and people are willing to offer money in exchange for your plasma. And not just once, since your body can produce almost unlimited plasma or just enough to sell monthly, where it doesn't affect your health. Now, isn't that crazy? You can make money from literally your own fluids in your own body instead of working a 9 to 5 or selling a product to make profit. This is what I call Common Business Practices 101. If you have something of value you could think of and find someone who is willing to buy it, there is no limit to how much money you can make. If you're not into having bodily fluids being taken away from your body, do not fear. There are many other methods I know of that will get your money up as well. Another way without working a 9 to 5 and waiting weekly or bi-weekly for a check to get instant cash, such as places that will be willing to pay you for your thoughts about certain products. One example is Opinions Ltd. I went once to the mall, and this lady was offering people money for 30-minute surveys. Some people turned the offer down, but for me, money is money, and I'd rather spend half an hour to get instant money instead of working a 9 to 5. The reason why they give out money to anyone that partakes in their surveys is because they get paid by other businesses to find out what the consumer thinks about their product in order to get as much information and data they can possibly gather in order to find out what changes need to be made to improve their products in order to get their money up. If you ask me, I see this as a win-win situation. Although you're only allowed to participate in several surveys due to the fact that they only have so much limited money, but at the end of the day, something is better than nothing. If you live in a big city, you probably see people that are homeless or look like straight up bums, usually with shopping carts hauling junk. Mostly recyclable material, metals, aluminum, cans, etc. Have you ever thought to yourself, why do these people haul so much garbage? Well, I'll say this once more again. Another man's trash is another man's treasure. In this instance, local scrap dealers and recycling plants are willing to buy garbage for cash. Can you believe it? That's crazy. I know. I've seen it before. Back in 2019, during my road trip to Boston, I saw many homeless people carrying trash bags or used shopping carts to haul bags full of recycling material. I had no clue why they did this. I looked up online due to my curiosity, and throughout my investigation, I found out that the recycling plants buy the recyclables that people bring. This transaction is another win-win situation because at the end of the day, the people who bring the recyclables get cash, and there's less litter and trash in the environment. And who wouldn't want to gather that was once invaluable trash for some cold, hard cash? There are many other ways of making money without having to have a job. And every day, there are newer supply and demands. However, my goal is to create a business with cash flow where I don't have to do anything physical or be there operating it while I'm getting my money up. How to double your money up. Eventually, when accumulating pocket change, you should have $1. Have you all ever heard of the dollar store? Well, back in 2019, I helped a former friend accumulate around $32 by borrowing this former friend $1 and advising my friend to sell gum at our high school. They made $4 by being in debt for $1 due to investing in a pack of gum he sold, a total of 16 sticks of gum for 25 cents each. Now, at first, this person was very pessimistic about it, thinking, who would even bother to buy gum? I advise him to ask every single person he comes across and offers them gum for 25 cents a piece. 2 days later, my friend made $3 profit because I decided to borrow him $1. And in my opinion, it was the smartest thing this person did in their whole entire life, financial wise. The only reason I had this method of doubling my money up is because during Christmas Day, all my mother gave me was $60 cash as a Christmas gift. I was grateful and happy because something is better than nothing, and I know she could only spare so much money. However, I wasn't satisfied, and I knew it was wrong to expect from others to provide me with things that I desired. And it was better if I become self-made instead of relying on others. So I decided to take matters into my own hands. I began to double my money up during winter break when going to Sam's Club for grocery shopping. I was browsing until I came across a box of hot Cheetos that included 50 bags and sold for $12 each. You know how people say that you only use about 10% of your brain? I felt like I unlocked another 10% after my remaining brain cells had this crazy ass idea about selling each bag of hot Cheetos for 50 cents. When I returned to school from winter break, I brought only 10 bags of hot Cheetos and offered my classmates a bag for 50 cents in English class. And to my surprise, one of my classmates bought 2 for $1. I was in awe and kept going like nothing in the world could stop me. Eventually, I sold all of my chips during period 3, science, and made $5. So the next day, I brought 20 because there was only so much space in my bag. They sold like hotcakes, and by the end of the week, I would have $25. 25. I feel like I just did the most amazing thing in my life. I found an exploit of how to make money without even having to work a 9 to 5 or finding money in the streets. It was amazing. However, there are many things to look out for when selling goods. In one situation, your customers want to buy your goods. However, they don't have the money at the moment, and they reply usually with, "I'll give you the money tomorrow." Do not give it to them willingly at all. And if you do so choose to give them your goods without buying, you better know this customer really well, enough to pull up where they live and reclaim what they owe. Regardless, respond back with, "When you got the money, I'll give you the chips." Do not give them the goods regardless if they promise to pay back later, no matter what, as you may never see that money again at all. Also, never let the customer tell you what the price to sell your goods. I remember this one really stupid person told me, "You should sell it for 35 cents instead of 50 cents. I think that might have been the most stupid thing I have ever heard from someone that ignorant. What kind of person has 35 cents in exact change? It's very rare and so inconvenient and such a bad price to sell. If you're trying to get your money up, never listen to the consumer/customer tell you how to handle your business. That's why America's economy has been in a bit of a downfall. So many people have very little idea of how business works and would rather most likely consume than invest or take a risk in order to double their money and become an entrepreneur. Instead, Consumers rely on their 9 to 5 paycheck to give them enough money to sustain themselves. They consume more than they earn and want their employers to raise their wage. That, in my opinion, is borderline how poor people and socialists think, and should not be in the norm in this country. In 6 months, I made $430 and could have made more, but a few of my teachers didn't approve of my hustle. And to that, I say, fuck them. They ain't paying for my food or my roof. The first time I got caught, I went to the dean's office, and they gave me a warning. Did I keep selling after that? You damn know well I did, cause unless they provided me with a roof over my head and fed me on a daily basis, which Lord knows that ain't gonna happen, especially on a teacher's salary. Regardless, I would not stop the grind, especially since I was selling 2 boxes and making $50 a week. At one point, even 3 boxes, which is $75 a week. In order to not get caught selling hot Cheetos, I had to sell them like drugs in order not to get caught. Eventually, I got caught again, and my vice principal was explaining to me about how I needed a permit to sell and to get a job, but I was only 14. And who's gonna hire me, a kid that ain't even old enough to legally have a job? So I told him that he must be smoking on that pack, because I'm not waiting the day I become 16 to get a minimum wage 9 to 5 job. I needed to get my money up today, not tomorrow. I think when trying to have a passion or commitment into anything, everyone should have the mentality that they could die tomorrow, and waiting to do something would have been for nothing. So I would rather do as much as I can and seize the day and be in a better situation today and to make tomorrow better. Maybe that's why I'm currently writing this and thinking I will die before I even become an adult, and all this financial knowledge and skills I will hold will be forgotten. At that point, I thought to myself that schools are meant for you to have ethics of just being an employee working for someone else, living check to check, take our mortgages and loans for houses and cars, then rely on the government, social security, IRAs, retirement check for when you get older, which won't even exist by 2040. I think everyone should learn about how to get their money up. The idea of capitalism is a free market where the seller has to create or buy and supply something in order to offer another client who is willing to trade for your goods for a currency that both parties agree with. There will be times where you make such risks that may fail. However, that should not stop you to keep going. And eventually, you'll make a huge financial risk, and the outcome will be amazing. And you will be rewarded a bunch of money for taking the financial risks and thinking smarter instead of working harder than the majority of people who would rather work hard for other people, knowing that they will not be guaranteed the pay they agreed on. However, eventually, not being satisfied with the money. Now, I'm not saying you have to quit your job. However, I'd rather start a business. Most people don't because they have fear that they will fail instead of succeeding, and may be impatient with the results of their business in the first years, leading them to failure, which causes people to not start over and either not learn from their mistakes. As I got older, I became more right-wing financially and in other aspects of the political spectrum, and I never regretted it since. If one day I ever get into a position of power in the US government, you know damn well I would work my ass off to get a law passed through or executive order that would allow people, especially the youth, to resell wholesale products anywhere at any time, because Lord knows not everyone has great parents, especially ones that don't know how to spend their money and manage it well, or have bad habits on spending money on mostly beer, drugs, anything profligate related. Some might be too lazy or might not even provide for the kids' basic necessities. Eventually, some kids, God forbid, but they are going to get tired of their situation and are going to take action, find out how to fend for themselves. Because being a victim and waiting for something good to happen gets you nowhere. Instead of committing an act of crime to get by, how about another alternative of buying products, such previously mentioned as a pack of dollar store gum, reselling it for a quarter, and repeating the process? It's a way more productive alternative than begging for money on the streets, and less of a risk of law enforcement being involved. I know for a fact people are more willing to give you money if you're selling something such as gum, which will be a better sales pitch than saying I'm homeless with no job and I need money to get by. Selling gum in order to make money to get by is way less counterproductive than just begging for money. People feel more obliged to give you money since they get something out of it as well, instead of feeling like it's an inconvenience for them. And for tax reasons, I don't think these kids and poor adults are going to be making over 10K as well. And the products they sell are from companies that are already certified, so they shouldn't get in any legal trouble at all since they bought from the parties from a legit business. It's a win-win situation for both parties. I eventually was dismissed from the vice principal's office, and at that point, I had more of a drive to keep selling my bags of chips. I never heard anyone say to never tell someone not to do something again, cause then they'll most likely go do it. But in my case, I wasn't doing anything bad. I was doing something every person living in America should at least do once in their lifetime. Eventually, I kept getting caught multiple times, but kept doubling my money up. I got caught once more in early June. This time was different. When I went down to the office, they told me I was suspended and I would get a ticket for selling chips. My mom was there as well. That's how you know this time it was serious and I would get in some real trouble. I thank God that my mother and father were both supportive and were really proud of me for doing something productive and trying to give me ideas of alternatives of finding other ways to double my money up without working a 9 to 5. I eventually started another great idea of selling things in class while I was at school. I was browsing Amazon for masks and goggles that looked pretty cool to me. Heck, I even bought one for myself and still use it to this day. One of my classmates said, "Hey, how much do I gotta pay for you to buy me those on Amazon for me?" The initial price was $15, but at the time, I said $20. I should have said $25, but $5 was profit nevertheless. I ordered it. When it came, he gave me the $20 and I gave him the motorcycle goggles, as agreed. And it felt like I unlocked another 10% of my brain, money-making wise. I eventually started offering the same service to other classmates, saying I could get them things for them if they had the cash. Now, you're thinking, why didn't they just buy it for themselves? Well, most of the people didn't have debit cards that provides people access to buy stuff online. Most of the things you can buy online, you weren't allowed to buy from physical stores due to being underage. Or the products just weren't available in stores. And most likely, they didn't want their parents to know what they had purchased. Most of the products were track phones with prepaid data, vape pens, lighters, necklaces, etc. Even though I was prevented from making money and selling chips, I found a new way to profit once more at school with this rare niche I have developed of people not being able to buy items due to them not being able to buy it in legitimate ways or being restricted to buy such items. Another hustle to double your money is one I have seen in action before, especially during the summer. While in the freeway of a city, and it's simple, but it never comes across anyone's mind on how it's one of the most easiest and profitable methods of getting your money up, especially during the summer, is selling ice cold water. While driving in freeways and interstates and busy streets in the cities and airports, you may see younger people approaching you or other cars and selling them water and many other beverages for $1 or $2. This business idea is the most ingenious thing I have witnessed by far, since almost any living being with a bit of cash can do this themselves and make massive profits due to the fact that when you're selling cold water and other beverages in busy areas by roads, streets, freeways, and intersections, and especially on a hot day, you have an endless stream of potential customers coming to you instead of going to them, which gives you more of a chance to get your money up, since there are many people to sell your ice cold drinks to. I think the water selling business is an overall simple and profitable one, but I'll explain the process step by step regardless. You first need to buy your beverages. I would recommend going to your local Walmart or grocery store and buying store brand water bottles and soda pop for more quantity to get your money up, or whatever drink you think that can make a good amount of profit on, as well as acquiring a cooler to store your drinks in. It's overall common sense, but make sure you purchase an ice bag as well to put in the cooler, because you don't want to sell hot or room temperature drinks to your customers, especially if the weather is hot. When you are selling anything in general, always bring spare change and singles with you in case one of your customers needs to break a $5 or $20 bill. Make sure you come off to the customer in a friendly, polite manner. You don't want to seem hostile when selling, since it is most likely decreases your chance in convincing your customer to buy from you. Be very careful while selling. You're most likely in an area where lots of cars are passing by, so make sure you do your best not to get hit or ran over by a car while doubling your money up. Overall lesson I learned from these small business ideas that can double your money up is that if there's a situation or problem in the world, there is always a way to make money off it. In business terminology, it's called capitalizing off a situation by solving with a solution that gets your money up from such conflicts. My advice: think smarter, not harder, and never fear about pursuing an idea of getting your money up. Even if it seems like it may not work, pursue it no matter what, but make sure what you're going into as well. Being pessimistic won't make you any richer, so why start now? In my opinion, there is no such thing as risk in business. It's not like some game of chance you're playing at a casino. It's an educated plan that takes time and effort and money, that involves a problem of everyday life and solving it into a solution that you can profit off of. Now, it's your turn to find out what are problems in your environment that you can fix and capitalize on. As soon as I become 18 years old, I hope I have accumulated enough money to buy a bender's permit and equipment to start my business venture. I am excited, but also concerned that I won't break even, but you know what they say: if nothing ventured, then nothing gained. And cross my heart and keep getting my money up until the day I die. If my plan was a success, then on to bigger things, such as upgrading to food and drink vending machines, ATM machines, billboards, renting out multi-family houses and coin laundromats, buying a car wash. Heck, maybe one day I might be able to buy a whole building and rent it out for office space, making me millions. This may take me my whole life to finish half of this plan I've been working on for 4 years, but I'm willing to take the chances and spending the rest of my life working a 9 to 5 and getting taxed a ridiculous percentage, and relying that once I grow old, the government's IRA plan or the company's 401k plan I've been working for my whole life will take care of me, because eventually the company you work for may lay you off and outsource your job to either a third world country, because the workers there, they'll do it twice as hard as you do your job, but for lower wages, no benefits whatsoever, and it will benefit the company tremendously due to there being no union work labor forces on the company's ass 24/7 about the conditions their employees are facing in their work environment and the wages they are being dealt with. Now, you might be thinking, what could be worser than that? I reply with automation. Imagine what was once labor done by human beings now being done by robots. You don't have to pay them or give them breaks. They can work 24/7, and they are more efficient in labor and producing goods than any human being, and saving the company way more money than they can imagine. The best part about machines is they don't have any free will whatsoever. They will never form a union. Machines are the best employees a business owner could ask for. You think raising the minimum wage to $15 is great, so your job gets taken over by a machine. Just look at the local kiosk machines already in your local McDonald's. Do you think corporations are gonna just give in to politician laws and give their buck to you just because your elected representative says so? Of course not. They'll find a way to cut any corners they can to save their money up, even if that means replacing all of its employees with robots to save a buck. They'll do it in a heartbeat. That's why I would rather be an entrepreneur than work a day in my life for someone else, and you should too. How to save your money up. Saving money is a very important financial skill, and especially in today's society where everyone spends and consumes without a second thought of thinking one step ahead to save money on things that would matter, like using your money towards a car or a house, or even emergency funds. I think people in general should start making a habit of saving their money because you never know what inconvenient surprises or emergencies will occur, which will require you to spend money to fix a situation. That's why you must be prepared and always save your money up. The reason I started writing Get Your Money Up, Not Your Funny Up is to create somewhat of a financial playbook that will aid me and my friends and family, and hopefully others as well, to be financially successful or have a better idea about how money works and where to get it without having to haul a 9-to-5 job for the rest of their life. I want to show people there is another way of getting your money up than just working for it. When most people do work and get their first paycheck, they most likely never think first about the idea of saving their money up. Instead, they think of all the ways they are going to spend their money because jobs provide people with a steady amount of income that they receive on a 2-week basis. I hope what I'm about to say never happens to anybody. However, eventually, one day your employer that you work for will either fire you or outsource your job to people in third world countries or automation. And if you don't have any savings whatsoever for a situation like this, what will you do then? If you ask me, it's not about how much getting per hour, but really it's how much you save and what you put that money into. I really try to be stingy with my money at every chance I get, no matter what, because I'd rather not spend money on something that isn't really necessary for me to buy. Most of you are going to get on my case about these products I mentioned, but the truth hurts, such as beer, cigarettes, drugs, fast food, and many other things that people buy on a daily basis. That is a pure want than a need. These are all non-essential items that will harm your well-being, which could be an extreme liability that leads people to a financial downfall that will prevent you not just from saving your money up, but will put you in a situation such as not being able to afford to pay your bills on time in order to keep a roof on your head. And believe it or not, this is a very common problem that happens with many people who are very irresponsible for their finances. It was so common that someone with a brain came up with $1 million idea to capitalize off this problem with a solution called a payday loan. Payday loans exist for one purpose only, and that's to borrow money to people that made bad financial choices in their life, and to provide them with the money in order to keep a roof on their heads. However, the person who borrowed the money has to pay them back within the next month, which is a really poor decision because the person who took the loan will pay more than what they borrowed due to the high interest rates they add onto the loan in order to make a profit off borrowing money. People need to know their limits on how much they are willing to spend and at what limit they are willing to stop spending money in profligate ways. The day I decided to save my money up is when I had accumulated $500 without working, just from scrounging up coins and accumulating cash from doubling my money up. At that moment, I thought to myself, all that time taken to get all that money and it could be spent all in 1 second. So I decided not to spend the money unless there is a dire situation which requires me to spend it. The only thing that anyone should spend their money on at all would be for the bare essentials. Unfortunately, most people immediately splurge their paycheck instead of saving their money. Most people would spend it all quickly without a second thought, even if they worked days and weeks on end to make that money, which gives them the right to spend it. But unfortunately, most people would rather blow their money than saving it for later uses. Eventually, the day will arrive when something good comes along that seems like a great bargain, or when something inconvenient happens and then you don't have the money in order to purchase such a product or asset, and then you wonder why you can't afford things in the first place. Most people have the audacity to borrow money from others and put themselves more in debt when they can barely save or make money, and will be more in debt than what they even owe due to interest rates. That is a really big problem in America, especially with payday loans, mortgages, down payments on vehicles, etc. Now, how I would go about saving money is to always treat money with such high value. You need to develop some self-discipline to not spend any of it on things that aren't necessary, only to spend your money on the essentials. Look, I know it could be a hard task for most. However, life is tough, and if you're going to get your money up in any way possible, you must make some tough choices that require sacrifice. You may not like making these choices. However, they will benefit you in the long run. If you ever encounter people being stressed out, which you know very well, it's the worst mindset you can be in since it makes people do very questionable and unwise things in the heat of the moment, such as saying or doing things that you usually don't mean at all. However, most people let their emotions take control over them and lose their ability to think rational. The emotion can cause someone to purchase things without a second thought because their emotions are telling them to buy these things so they can cope by giving them a sense of falsehood to solve their situation, such as buying an overwhelming amount of things, which has to be the worst products, but at the same time, the best products to ever be invented. It's the best product for people who own beer and cigarette companies and drug dealers, since they have an addictive item that gets people hooked on and gives them more of an urge to keep buying, which is another key aspect of getting your money up. However, it's the worst since these products give you a high that makes you lazy and lethargic and will harm your body, causing death and other major health problems. If you ask me, I would use my hard-earned money in a more productive way, such as saving it and finding ways to invest, whether it be buying wholesale products that I can sell to people to double my money up, or invest into something that will benefit my well-being. If you have started to develop habits of saving your money up, but you don't know how longer you can resist the urge to spend your money, you can go down to your local bank and open a CD. What does a CD stand for? A certificate of deposit is where the bank holds on to your money for as long as you like, but the interest is more higher than a regular savings account, and you will make more money on your certificate of deposit depending on your bank's APR, which stands for annual percentage yield. It's the overall amount of money they'll give you back depending on the percentage of interest. For example, let's say you deposit $1,000 into your bank CD and your APY is 1%, and if you leave it in there for a year, you will get $1,010 back. It's not that much, however, you make more leaving it in there than a regular savings account, and you can always put more money into it. Let's say you have $25,000 and you put it into a certificate of deposit for 1 year. With an APR of 1%, you will earn $250, which is more than before because the more money you put into a CD, the more you get back. It may not be a lot, but something is better than nothing. And I would rather have $250 a year for saving my money up than earning nothing. Remember, we're trying to save your money up while getting your money up. I will give you another example on how to save your money up. Let's say you have $15,000 total, but you only spend a good 15% a month, which would be around $12,750 left in savings. However, you can't go any lower than that amount, so try to be as stingy as possible. Try to cut off or find cheaper alternatives for items you use in order to save more, whether it be food, rent, clothing, etc. Once you go from 15K to 16K, you can only spend 15%. Or, if you want to save your money up faster, you can bring down the percentage to 12 or 10%. Eventually, while developing this habit, you will have accumulated a bunch of money to keep you financially stable. If you have the sudden urge to spend your money on something you desire, consider the fact that those things you want to buy are absolutely worthless and don't bring any value into your life. Instead, use that money you saved to start a side hustle or into a small business, or save it towards buying a home. Even buying gold is a good way of getting your money up. Did you know the United States dollar used to be backed by gold, but has become a fiat currency since 1971, which means the money is not backed by something of value, but by the government's word and the people's trust in the currency. The federal funds that is operated by the United States government did this so they can print as much money as they like in order not to be in debt. However, this will affect the economy negatively. The day when Arizona iced tea is more than 99 cents and the dollar store no longer sells their products for under $1 and people stop coming to America or crossing over the border illegally to the United States of America to experience the American dream, ladies and gentlemen, our country is in trouble, which will eventually happen due to inflation. Gold will never devalue and will always have more value than any currency. So does silver and copper. It is literally God's money. And if it didn't have so much value, President Franklin D. Roosevelt wouldn't have made it back in 1933 to ban people from owning or using gold as a second-hand currency, because during that time, people were exchanging money for gold in droves, and the Federal Reserve did not have enough gold to give back. During the 1960s, they got rid of the laws placed back then, so people can now buy and own gold bullion to their heart's desire. However, as mentioned before, years later, President Richard Nixon would get rid of the gold standard for the United States dollar. The fixed amount conversion rate was around $35 per ounce of gold, which was no longer valid in 1971, which caused the US dollar to start inflating, since the government can now print as much cash in order to prevent another Great Depression, in order to prevent the country from being in debt. This is when the dollar had officially started to inflate, which is why it is a very important currency to acquire and save lots of gold, because just 1 kilo of gold is worth $60,000 as of October 9th, 2021, which is why it's better to save your money up and buy ounces of gold instead. Many people say saving money is bad due to the inevitability of it inflating and can be worth nothing the next day. I think what they say is true and wrong at the same time. It is important to save your money up. However, you can also use your money and turn it into something that will give you even more money. Remember, it's better to have your money moving than having your money sitting around and not investing it into an asset that can generate more money for you. But overall, saving your money up is a main key method to prevent yourself from going broke. How to spend your money up. In order to spend your money as efficiently as possible without losing as much or spending more in the future, you need to learn how to buy products that you have a need or desire for a cheaper price of what it's worth, or consider buying a cheaper alternative. When buying products, you must always ask yourself, how long does the product last for? Are there other better alternatives to that product that will be better and save your money up in the long run? You never should have the mentality of spending your money up without a second thought about thinking of the many options that can aid you financially. If it doesn't help you by being a convenience into your everyday life, what's the point of buying it? Let's say, for example, you want to buy batteries. However, there are two options for batteries, disposable and reusable. The regular batteries are $11 and comes with 16 AA batteries. On the other hand, the rechargeable batteries are worth $20 and include 4 rechargeable batteries and the charger. Now, if I were you, I would 100% choose the rechargeable batteries. While yes, there are less of them, however, they never expire and you never have to go to the store to buy more because they are rechargeable. I have saved so much money by spending only $40 for 2 packs of rechargeable batteries and never bought batteries ever again. If you own a wireless console game controller or have battery-powered electronics that you use on a daily basis, you will most likely burn through the whole pack of 16 really quickly. Why pay less for something you have to spend more later on, while you can pay more to never spend again? Regular batteries eventually run out. Why not wait and save $20 to buy rechargeable batteries? Sure, the regular batteries are cheap, but then later you're spending $11 again. Once they are all used up, which comes to $22 already spent, and you would have saved $2 from purchasing the rechargeable batteries. Buying regular batteries is a liability. In some instances, you save more when you spend more. Always think to yourself, is there a better alternative to this product where the quality and features are better? Will you have to come back and buy more because the product was only for a one-time use, which is an inconvenience for you as a consumer, since you will overall spend more money than you would be saving money. Speaking of spending your money up more in order to save your money up, as I have personally mentioned before, both Walmart and Sam's Club are owned by the same company. However, the difference between these two stores is that at Sam's Club, you will spend the same amount of money you would spend at Walmart, although you will get more bang for your buck, which means you'll get more food than you would at Walmart for the same price. Since most of the Sam's Club products are at wholesale price, which means it's cheaper than you can resell such products as mentioned before, like hot Cheetos, and profit off of it. I love Sam's Club. The prices for the food they offer is at a reasonable price. The rotisserie chickens they sell at Sam's Club are worth $5 total for 3 pounds worth of high quality, freshly cooked meat that could feed a whole family of 4 for 3 days, and it's more cheaper than getting a whole bucket of chicken at KFC for like $20 just to feed your family for 1 day, and a healthier option. In my opinion, it makes you feel like the gas prices went back to what it was back in the late 20th century when the gas prices were still around the same price as a hot dog combo at Sam's Club. Speaking of that, not only does Sam's Club sell everything a retail store would, but they also sell gas as well. And it's 20 to 10% cheaper than gas station prices. All these pros are similar to Costco's, and with all these benefits, it's no wonder why people blast their money and probably haul ass from long distances just to buy their products. You may be asking yourself, if it's so good, why don't more people go there? Well, in order for these wholesale warehouse stores to keep such great benefits and prices to their buyers, the customer is required to pay a premium of $45 per year to keep such great prices and benefits while they themselves profit and can continue pursuing this business practice. Many people are discouraged seeing this as their money not being spent well, but for me, this is an absolute steal of a deal. Now, you might be thinking, why spend that money on a membership when I can just use that money and go get some food from the grocery store? Which many people do. But have you ever considered that you will most likely save more money on food shopping at a wholesale store than a regular one? For instance, the food comes in bigger portions. I'll give you an example. The rotisserie chicken is the same price at both Sam's and Walmart. However, Walmart's chicken is 1 pound, while Sam's Club rotisserie chicken is 3 pounds, which has more chicken for the same price. While they are both owned by the same company, the products are different in their quality and quantity. They offer better quality products at Sam's Club due to the customer paying annual premiums in order to make a profit. So, paying the premium is worth it at the end of the day. There are also many other ways to save on products while spending money, such as buying pre-owned products. Although used, it works just the same, depending on the condition the seller has left it in. You can also discuss and try to negotiate to lower the price as well, which is more of a reason to buy third hand. It is never wrong to buy second-hand items. If you have an impulse to buy something without a second thought, take a deep breath and take some time to do some research on the product you wish to buy, especially if it's a purchase that might end up being a liability in the long run. The common consumer would most likely not be patient for the price to eventually drop or go on sale. Not being able to afford it at the moment, they will most likely finance it, which means they have to make monthly payments of the product's total price, which could affect your credit score and your financial situation for better or for worse, depending on the interest and the monthly price rate to pay it off. The only time I recommend financing for anything is if it's a product that will eventually pay for itself in the long run or make your daily life more convenient. Overall, I think paying the membership fees for such wholesale retail stores are worth it in the end, especially due to the quality of the products and services that benefit you greatly, improving your quality of life, which is the great result of spending your money wisely. How to get your assets up. When I was young, I sold bags of hot Cheetos for money as a solution for getting my money up so I could afford things that my parents could not afford to spare money for. This provided me a way to make cash due to it being sold for a wholesale price, while the customer will buy it for retail price, which will double your profit from such said product. This is the definition of an asset, something you buy and makes you money. But now that I have researched and become more acquainted with more knowledge of getting my money up, I know now there are better types of assets. The main idea of an asset is to own something that produces you money without you having to do most of the work and makes you money while you sleep. I believe assets are the greatest and most valuable resource in order to produce money, without working a 9 to 5 job. In my opinion, and I believe if more people at least had one or two assets, they would be financially well off. Such great examples of assets for me are bulk candy machines, vending machines of various food-related items, laundromats, car washes, storage units, duplex multi-family homes, billboards, leasing office space. These examples are what I consider actual assets. You could also include stocks, bonds, and crypto. However, I don't consider these actual assets since they aren't physical and aren't as efficient enough to have a consistent passive income from, since these sources may not get your money up, even after you die. If you ask me, this isn't considered an asset since you don't always profit from these investments. You could either lose or win money, and the only time you profit from these types of assets is when you buy low and hold your stock. Once the price is eventually high enough for you to be satisfied to sell the stock, which could take years just for the price to skyrocket depending on the company's progress and current financial situation. The only good thing about profiting from stocks is how low the tax capital gains are, which as of 2021 are around 15 to 20%, depending if it's short term or long term, which is a steal if you're asking me, because you could also make lots of money without being taxed on the same amount as the working Joe, which is a win in my book. As much as it seems I like to badmouth stocks, there is one way you are guaranteed to make passive income from stocks, but only a fair amount of companies offer this kind of opportunity, which is called dividends. Basically, some companies like Coca-Cola and many other companies pay you a certain amount of money 4 times out of the year just for owning their stock. That sounds like another steal of a deal. If you're going to invest into the stock market, do some research and make sure the stock offers dividend yields as well. So now that I got that out of the way, the previous mentioned physical assets are the best because you are always guaranteed a passive income from them. Depending on how well you manage and maintain your asset will dictate how well you profit from it. Examples of a physical asset would be candy machines, since all you have to do is fill up the machines with candy and then place it in a location that is busy, like a laundromat, and all you have to do is check the machines every month to restock and withdraw your profit without having to do any labor whatsoever. Basically, you can sleep while making money, and eventually you can move up to do better assets such as snack vending machines to ATM machines, then billboards, and at that point you have enough money to buy a laundromat, and so on. It doesn't have to be in that specific order or have to be those types of businesses. However, they still make money while you sleep and will keep getting your money up long after you're dead, for as long as they're maintained and still efficient throughout the years. The more assets you have, the more you are able to afford and live more comfortably without relying on a paycheck to pay your liabilities, which are the exact opposite of assets. Liabilities are things you own that take away money from you, like a car, due to the fact you have to pay the monthly insurance fees, send the car to the auto shop every once in a while, and the annual registration fees on the license plates. Also the stickers, and don't even get me started on the cost for gas. All of these things I mentioned take money away from you just for using your car. This is the reason why cars are a liability, because they do not produce any passive income whatsoever. You only lose money from having it, never gaining any profit whatsoever. Basically, almost anything that takes money out of your pockets on a monthly or annual basis is a liability, especially if you decide to take out a loan for anything you know damn well you can't afford to pay off at the moment, and the interest makes it worse. So you better make sure you have an asset to back you up, because there's only so many liabilities a 9 to 5 bi-weekly paycheck can cover until it's too much to make ends meet. Make sure to limit your liabilities and handle paying debt off as soon as possible. Now, if I were to get a loan, it would be for an asset, because the asset would pay off the loan, which is the liability, and will make more money than needed to pay off the loan. For example, let's say you take out a down payment for a multi-family home with 2 units, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bathroom each. And let's say it's around $100,000 and the down payment is around $10,000.
However, the mortgage rate is $800 a month, plus taxes, etc. But you charge both units each $850 a month, which comes up to a total of $1,700 minus the mortgage payments is $900 a month profit. This is one way you can turn something you lose money from that is considered a liability, such as getting a mortgage for a house and turning it into an asset by renting out the house to other people, which gives you money to cover your mortgage, monthly payments, and produces profit as well. This is a method of how you produce passive income by borrowing money from the banks instead of losing money and paying for more than you borrowed in interest. Not only doing this will get your money up, but your credit score up as well. Doing this will give you more opportunity to invest in larger assets, such as duplexes from laundromats, and going on to one day owning a tower and leasing the space for offices, stores, etc. That is the American dream, spot on, at least for me. A person who owns many assets never has to work hard enough ever again and can afford luxuries that the average 9-to-5 Joe would have to get a second job just to afford such luxuries. Instead of putting their hard-earned money and time into assets that will financially aid them to a point where they will no longer have to work a job, which will provide them more free time to pursue other things, such as using their money to invest into more assets, spending time with friends and family, pursuing new hobbies that have no monetary gain and are unproductive that you enjoy without it being a liability, due to it being time-consuming. When I was a child, my favorite video game at the time was Grand Theft Auto Online, and I still play the game to this day. And for the people who play this game, you know it is a time-consuming game, due to the fact that you spend the majority of the game accomplishing lots of missions and heists to earn cash in order to buy garages to store vehicles you have purchased, better firearms and body armor to progress in missions with less difficulty, better vehicles to get to point A to point B faster. The game offers businesses that would advance the player with more easier methods of acquiring more money while spending less time grinding. The reason I mention this game is because, believe it or not, it offers something of financial education, due to the fact that the whole game is literally revolved around money. The plot of Grand Theft Auto Online is to climb your way up from rags to riches and start a criminal enterprise in order to make a vast amount of money, which is used to purchase things in the game. And depending on how you spent your time and money in GTA Online determines if you were going to be a broke player or a rich one. The game implements the aspects of how to get your money up by getting your assets up through ill-gotten gains and the illegitimate businesses you could buy in the game that provides the players with a much more simple way of getting their money up, which allows players to buy other businesses in the game to make even more money, which can be used to purchase properties, militarized vehicles, or luxury cars and powerful firearms, which would take the player forever to get if they just did the same regular contact missions, which compared to the businesses, pays them pocket change. The first ever business I bought in the game was a crate business. You had the option to buy a big, medium, and small warehouse. Inside those warehouses, bought crates and stored a specific amount of crates in those warehouses, depending on the warehouse size. I started out with the small warehouse that costs $250,000, and you had three options on how many crates you wish to buy at once. The first option, which cost $2,000 for one, the second option for 2 crates cost $8,000, and the third option to acquire 3 crates was $18,000. Now, I only had $37,000 to my name in the game, since I had to save up to $1,250,000. $1 million is required in order to buy the office to run the warehouses. I had to spend $250,000 in order to buy the small warehouse. It was a huge risk for me, since I had no clue how much I was going to profit in the long run. After spending all my money on this huge investment, I had only $37,000 left to my name in the game. I only had one option, which was to purchase the first crate option. This took me a good while since I had to do 16 separate missions, which took me a good hour and a half. However, I knew the payoff was well worth it. With the 5,000 left to my name and my warehouse filled with the 16 crates, I could finally do a full sell mission. Once I had completed the sell mission, I felt flabbergasted. I finally made $240,000 profit, and I was excited with joy. At that time, it was a lot of money to make, especially since it wasn't a heist and did not require other players to participate in this activity, which made this method of making money in the game so convenient for people who grind the game by themselves. Eventually, I had enough money to purchase 3 crates at once, so I only had to do 5 resupply missions instead of 16 at once. It saved me lots of time. Although I had to spend more money, the process was way faster and easier, saving me more time. Eventually, I accumulated a vast amount of money. I made more than the $1,250,000 I initially spent on the business. So I bought a medium warehouse for $850,000, and for every sell mission I completed, I earned $750,000. I made more money than I ever expected and continued to expand my assets in the game. The point of me mentioning this game and my experiences throughout playing it is to show that even in games, there are aspects of making money through a business that can apply through the real world. Now, as I got older, I thought to myself, if I had put as much time and effort as I do into Grand Theft Auto Online towards other skills that will benefit me in the real life, I would be a better, productive, successful person and in a better position than I was today, especially since I am not an adult and live with my parents. I realize how lucky I am to have this time where I can do whatever I want, productive or not, without having to worry about adult problems such as hauling a 9-to-5 job in order to live with a roof over my head, which is why the most important asset which people take for granted is time. Time is a very important asset, especially when you are young. I realized this when a good friend of mine, at the age of 17, back in 2019, one day had some friends over. And due to some poor choices, he was kicked out of his parents' house and became homeless. This was a wake-up call for the young man who had to grow up quick and had to think on the spot and survive. The only way he knew best was to work a 9-to-5 job. Sure, it took him a while. What he went through was tough and harsh and uncomfortable, but due to that, it gave him drive to change his situation, to get back on his feet, becoming a self-made man. This situation basically impacted his whole life, and he was not prepared at all, and had to act quick, since this came out of nowhere, and never thought of the situation to happen whatsoever. During that difficult time, I tried to help and give as much advice as I possibly could at this point, but there was also so much I could do since I was only 15 at the time, and it made me realize this was not only just a wake-up call for my friend, however, for me as well. I had not been in such a situation or barely exposed to the real life, and it's hard situations that makes you think on your feet. However, this made me realize that eventually at some point of my life, as I get older, this could well happen to me as well as anyone else. Even you could be in the same situation as my friend. If one day the same situation unfortunately comes knocking at my door, I had all the time to prepare for this harsh situation, which is why you have to be on your game and always prepare for the worst of the worst situations, especially in this harsh world when you don't got anyone else to take care of you other than yourself. The world is a cruel place, so instead of waiting, I prepared as much as I could by saving money and being stingy with it, saving every single penny I came across to make sure I had well over enough to be financially stable to prepare for such a situation to happen. This is why time is the greatest advantage and asset anyone could ever have, especially when you use it productively and to your own advantage, to prepare yourself with the upper hand in any uncertain, misfortunate situation that you may come across in the future. Time is precious and the majority of us take it for granted.
by using it unwisely and procrastinating on unproductive, lethargic, and time-consuming activities that prevent us in the long run from prospering earlier on in adulthood. The friend who I previously mentioned that got kicked out of his parents' house from making poor choices, especially on the week of his birthday, turning 17 years old, decided that at this point of his life, he was no longer going to mess around and instead used his time wisely since he had no one to go to, and he dropped out of high school since it was a waste of time. Since he was in poverty and school did not help him whatsoever financially, he took that time, which was his only option he had, which was to procure a job working full-time, and dropped out of school. Since he was in a dire situation, he had almost nobody but himself to aid him from becoming homeless. Since then, as of 2021, he has accumulated money from his job and can now afford to rent an apartment, finally being able to provide himself a roof over his head, where he can do what he pleases without having to worry of someone kicking him out for making a bad mistake that doesn't involve paying rent. My friend had to work a 9-to-5 job he despised in order to get by with the money he has worked hard for. He didn't get any aid from the government, no food stamps or welfare checks whatsoever. I am very proud of him through his journey of becoming an independent young adult. He put his time to good use and made the smartest choice for himself and used his time wisely, even though he was not prepared and only did it because of his dire situation he was in. Eventually, he prevailed and managed to get himself back on his feet, preventing himself from being homeless, and became financially stable. However, not financially free yet. Even though he did not get his high school diploma, it doesn't make him any less educated than people with one. In fact, he's more educated and one more step ahead than most that have graduated from high school and who are currently going to college, because none of them know what to do if they got kicked out of their parents' house with no money or help whatsoever, or have the knowledge of my friend's harsh experience on how to survive in the real world, with earning the bare minimum and getting by. This was the only skill you could learn from either you or someone else you know that has gone through this inconvenient experience. That experience my friend had became valuable knowledge and an asset to me, which is something that they'll never teach you at school. I could talk more about my friend Logan's life experiences, however, there's another story for another day, which I hope I'll get to share soon. My friend Logan is an asset of knowledge because if I ever get myself into that situation, I'll know exactly what to do. In the meantime, I will keep on learning about finances and saving as much money and getting my assets up as much as I can, and one day stack my money all the way to the ceiling and never have to worry about going broke again. How to get your business up. Getting your business up is the first big move anyone can ever make. However, when people think about starting their business, they usually think about starting a business in the food industry. When my parents first came to this country, my father and his brothers started a restaurant. My dad spent a majority of his time working there. I talked to him about his experience on starting a business, and he told me that being a restaurant owner is a very stressful and difficult job, especially since it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's almost your whole life. It requires a good amount of capital in order to start the business due to how expensive it costs in order to operate the restaurant. The daily experience for operating any food business is that you wake up, go to the restaurant, prepare the kitchen and food, as well as making sure that the equipment is cleaned and functioning. And let's not forget the customer relations, especially if you get the order wrong, or they complain about the food, etc. And at the end of the day, after closing, you have to spend lots of time cleaning up the kitchen and cleaning the cooking equipment. And last but not least, you gotta count all your cash, which is the best part if you ask me. Overall, it's a stressful experience, and especially since you gotta do bookkeeping, which is the most important asset in keeping any business operating. Bookkeeping keeps track of all your financial activities of money going in and out your business. It also includes what is your money being spent on and how it's being made. In other terms, if you can't do bookkeeping or even bother to hire someone who can do it for you, the business will fall apart.
Overall, these were daily tasks my dad had to undergo in order to run a restaurant, and eventually the restaurant shut down due to the events of my uncle's unfortunate absence of leaving the business in order to pursue other ventures of opportunity. This instance is a good example of a high maintenance business being a huge liability. When I list the previous maintenance tasks in order to operate a business, it would seem stressful to undergo such a task by yourself. But with the labor of 4 people, the maintenance can be done at a quicker pace, especially with the customer's food. You don't want them waiting a whole 2 hours just for their food to be done while multitasking your other clients' orders as well, which is why there is no way at all one person is able to take all of the weight of a high maintenance business, in this instance, a restaurant. Due to these events, eventually my dad had to shut down all operation of the restaurant as a whole and move on to other ventures, as so did his brothers. Unfortunately, this is the result of a high maintenance business being understaffed, and is not the right type of business that everyone dreams about that will give you financial freedom, especially if this is your first business. Nevertheless, just because you fail once doesn't mean you should call it quits. Instead, you should learn from the previous mistakes and errors of your previous business practices and try to attempt to build yourself back up or try another different type of business. Regardless if the business niche doesn't suit your hobbies or passions, as long as it makes you money, I could care less if it's to your liking or your passion. If the type of business I operate and own is the most boring business in the world and is not to my particular niche, as long as it's low maintenance and makes me a good amount of money without having to break a sweat, I'm set for life. Now that I gave you an example of what to expect when you're starting out, such as a restaurant, due to the amount of time and effort really and experience, it's not beneficial to someone starting out. I would like to introduce you to a low maintenance business that cannot fail whatsoever, and even if you do, the consequences are far less of an impact than a failing restaurant, and you can recover the money fairly quickly. This type of business gives you more time as well, being able to work your current job, which will provide you with 2 incomes instead of putting all your time and effort into one, which is why this type of business is the one that takes the cake and will actually be an asset not only for your money but time as well. Let's have vending machines be our example of a passive income business. You will have to look for locations, for example, laundromats, car dealerships, restaurants, hotels, motels, barbershops, auto shops, banks, offices. I recommend going to your city hall and asking them for the current lists of a business, since those are where you'll most likely have good chances of getting a location in order to operate your vending machines. Now, once you have found your ideal location, you will need to figure out a way to negotiate with the owner in order to put your vending machines in their business. The first order of business is to introduce yourself to the owner and tell them that you're in the business of vending machines and you think that their establishment would be the best area for your vending machine to operate. Persuade the owner by pitching them why it is beneficial to have your vending machine in their business and how it will benefit them as well in the long run. Explain why a vending machine would be beneficial, not only for having customers spending their money and the owner getting a cut of the profits as well, but how it is also beneficial for their employees' morale. Convince them that having a vending machine will improve their employees' productivity in the events if their employee or they themselves are hungry. They'll have food at their disposal while working, which is why it will overall improve employee morale, because no one is productive while on an empty stomach. Now that you have introduced yourself and pitched your offer to the owner, you will now need to negotiate how much you get from the profits of your vending machine while it is operating in their establishment, which is called a commission fee. In order to determine how much the owner of the establishment should get for letting you have your machines operate in their business, I would recommend offering them 10 to 15% of the total profits, which you make from the vending machine every month. If the owner is not pleased with the deal, try to negotiate with giving them 20 to 25% at tops. Or make a deal with them that if your machines make more profit in the coming month, you'll up the percentage. of their cut if they are not pleased with that price. Reply, "Thank you for your time," and go on with your day and look for another location. However, if you and the owner have settled on an agreement upon the commission fee, congratulations! You can now operate your vending machine in the establishment and finally start making some passive income. Once you have your location, you will need to purchase the vending machine. You will need to have a good amount of money on you. I'd say $1,500 to $2,500, since the license costs around $200 to $300, depending on where you live and the vending machine brand. I would go for the Dixie Narco brand, even if you buy it new or pre-owned. Usually, you can look for pre-owned vending machines on marketplace websites like Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Craigslist, etc. The people who sell the machines go around a good $600 to $900. Even though they are used, they still function and work. Maybe there's a bit of wear and tear, and don't forget the occasional few scratches on the machine. However, as long as it works and makes money, there really shouldn't be any issue. If you want to buy a new vending machine, the price usually goes around for $1,000 to $3,000, especially for a new good quality machine that also has a credit card reader slot and includes warranty and insurance on it. Whichever condition you buy a vending machine, the most important thing is that it should work no matter what. Now that you have obtained the vending machine, the next part is to buy the snacks at a wholesale price. Otherwise, you won't make a profit. I recommend going to the wholesale stores, previously mentioned in Chapter 5, How to Spend Your Money Up. It is recommended you buy the variety pack of snacks, but if I were you, I would go to Sam's Club and buy the variety pack containing the types of hot chips, as everyone loves spicy chips of every type, as well as a regular variety pack. You could even get ramen, sweets, whatever food item you can place in your vending machine. If you need to move your vending machine, but you can't fit it in your car, you can try and rent a moving truck. Haul it to the location. Once you have that settled, all you gotta do is wait and restock your vending machine once or twice a month. Once you withdraw your money, pay the agreed commission fee to the owner. You must keep track and bookkeep how much you make monthly in order to know how much you made. So when you file taxes, you will know how much money you owe to the IRS, which sucks. However, you get taxed less due to the fact you can make as many business-related tax write-offs you can think of, like the cost of buying new vending machines. And your snacks is an example of a tax write-off that will decrease how much you have to pay in taxes to the IRS. In my opinion, you should start to get your business in operation, and once it starts generating income for a good month or two, because what's the point of filing for a business entity or limited liability corporation if it doesn't make you any income in the coming months? However, in order to file for your business legitimately, you need to go and register your business at your state's local Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue is basically in charge of managing taxes and the laws relating to taxes, whether it be for property taxes, business, etc. Your local Department of Revenue oversees what businesses distribute and their transactions. Not only do you have to register with your local Department of Revenue, but you also have to register for a tax ID, which you can apply for at irs.gov. An employer ID number is a unique identification that declares your operation as an official business to the government. This is one of the best examples of how to start a business that's passive income, and it's one of the greatest feelings you can ever have. Starting a low-maintenance business that will be your greatest asset, which gives you more opportunity to start another source of income. This is an example of what a business should be, something that in the beginning takes time, but once it starts operating, all you have to do is very little maintenance and to check on it every 2 weeks to a month and make rewarding profits. The best thing about my example that it is a very low risk investment, as you don't have to pay rent for the location you operate your vending machine. The only expense you have to pay is the commission fee based on how much profit your machine makes once a month, and restock your vending machines as well, and the percentage of your profits to the IRS you have to pay at the end of the year. If you ask me, That is a godsend of a business. Getting your business up gives you more time to do other things and be financially free in order to pursue other business endeavors or purchase things that you most likely weren't able to afford before you started your business. This example I gave out for the vending machine business is how a business is supposed to be ran, as you have to put a good amount of time and capital into it. But eventually, you won't have to be there 24/7 maintaining the business, and it should give you more time to do other things than taking your precious time away from you. Another reason why the vending machine business is a good example is the key factor. It provides convenience for easy access to a quick fix of food at places that usually won't provide, which is why it is such a great money maker in the first place. If there's one important thing about business, it's that if your business provides convenience to people's daily inconveniences at an affordable price as well that will change people's daily lives for better or for worse, you are guaranteed to make lots of money. Most people who succeed in having a great business is due to a person improving society's quality of life with improving previous products or offering a service that benefits people, whether it be short-term or long-term. Make sure your product is a solution to a problem and it is a convenience to everyone worldwide. Make sure the price is in an affordable or reasonable range where the majority of people can afford to buy it. And most important, to have a good quality product or service and great relations with your customer, whether it be providing support for problems with the service or product. And consider customers' feedback and concerns. All of these factors are a key ingredient into getting your business up. How to get your investment up. I, Guivi Gonzalez Soto, have never invested in such things yet, like stocks, bonds, or crypto. However, I have my fair share of investments that have gone tremendously well, such as previously mentioned, having my first taste of getting my money up by investing $12 and making $25 in profit by selling hot Cheetos, which I am still proud of to this day, since it has expanded my opportunities of making money without having to work a 9-to-5 job in ways I could not imagine back then. I also have suffered atrocious losses as well. Investments don't just have to be about finances. It can be about many things that you yourself put time, patience, and effort into in order to accomplish your goals, whether it be relationships, education, improving and training your skills in a sport or martial arts, painting a piece of art, learning how to play an instrument. No matter which one of these you do, regardless, you will have to make a commitment. Put time, effort, and patience. You might even have to put in some sweat, blood, and tears as well. Go through trial and error before perfecting any skill set, even though I have lost very little from my investments. However, I gain a lot from learning from my previous failures I have experienced, especially when learning from other people's failures, which is invaluable since they take all the risk and all you have to do is just make sure you don't repeat the same mistakes that they made. In this instance, you have the advantage of succeeding where others have failed. Unfortunately for me, there is only so much mistakes that can be learned from others so I could succeed. The first ever major failure in my entire life is when I first began college. During that time, I was studying to become an emergency medical technician, which, in simple terms, the people on that ambulance that provide fast, efficient care to injured people at the scene of an emergency, which would have helped me gain a foot in having a good quality job, especially at the age of 18, instead of working in a retail or in the fast food industry. I'd be working in the healthcare provider industry, which for me, I thought would make me stand out from everyone, especially at a young age. I put time and effort into learning and participating in my EMT courses. Although I had started off well and kept up the pace with studying the material given to me by my instructor and reviewing it furthermore in order to ace my exam. Eventually, the day came when I took my exam, and after putting in hours, waking up early, studying till 12 a.m. in the night, almost starving myself since I put all my time into studying my course material. But unfortunately, no matter how much I studied, I could only remember so much, and failed my test. Out of 100 questions, I only got 52 right. The next day, I went to campus and my instructor was waiting for me. And unfortunately, my instructor told me due to my test score, I could no longer partake in the courses and that I would have to drop the class as a whole, regardless if it was still a passing grade with a 75%. I was very frustrated and mad, especially with how much commitment, time, and effort I put into studying day and night, trying to remember all the potential questions I had to remember in order to prepare myself for the exam. The one thing that kept me from losing my insanity is that I did not pay for the courses. My high school gave me the opportunity to pursue my career tuition free. I couldn't be ever so grateful. I gained so much and lost very little, especially since I now have a CPR certification, which is an asset for getting better quality jobs. If there's one thing I can tell someone, it would be just because you put in a lot of effort, time, and commitment to something for a long time, and it unfortunately comes to an end, and just because you did everything you could does not mean your life is over and it's all downhill from here. And you can never be in a better position than you once were, or even be in a better one. Once you finally decide to get back up on your feet, you must decide to either pursue the same thing and correct your previous failures, or going on to a new pasture with your newfound previous knowledge you have obtained from your past ventures, or other mistakes that will prevent it from happening once more. Another one of my investments that unfortunately had to come to an end. This started back in 2019, after summer vacation began. I could no longer sell hot Cheetos anymore. For the time being, I had to find another way to make money. I started an e-commerce store on Shopify and named my company Yukon Phoenix. My store sold a variety of products such as knives, bandanas, masks, stickers, and this was back in June before COVID had even existed. Imagine, I had that store up with the masks and bandanas in March. I would have made bank. Do I regret not retrying again? Yes. Will I make the same mistake again? Let's hope not. Now, you may be asking, where did I get these products and how do I make a profit? I acquired my merchandise from a website called AliExpress. Basically, they sold products for a wholesale price and people would buy the products and resell them at a retail value or cheaper. All I would have to do is list the products that I thought would sell on my website, Yukon Phoenix, for more than they were listed on AliExpress. Usually I would increase the price by $5 to $10 depending on the product and when the customer would buy on my store. I put all their ordering information that they initially put on my website and would copy and paste it onto AliExpress, and they would do all the work to get the product shipped to my customer while I profit off my $5 to $10 for being the middleman. And frankly, at that time, it seemed like the greatest money-making method. I was very excited and proud of myself. But unfortunately, I would have to advertise my products online in order to gain some traffic to my website to gain potential customers. So I decided to advertise my website and its products by using Facebook's ad feature. However, I would have to pay a certain amount of money in order to have my website and the products advertised. Basically, the way it worked was the more money I added to my ad budget, the more Facebook would show my products to the intended demographic of people that would most likely buy my products based on their interests. The budget I used was $25 in total. Eventually a month passed, and the results were awful. Not a single order whatsoever. I felt like I didn't execute my store well enough. I felt really dumb after spending $20 on ads since the results were no customers or a single sale whatsoever. The worst thing about the whole fiasco is if I didn't cancel my Shopify membership by the end of the month, they were going to charge me $30, and Lord knows I wasn't going to pay another $55 in total and more just to see if someone would view my Shopify store and purchase my goods. Even if someone did buy, the profit would barely cover the costs to maintain my operation. That was too much of a liability for me. Remember, I'm trying to get my money up, not get my money down, hoping I can make $1 after spending a good amount of money investing just for a measly profit. So I called it quits and shut down my operation. Did I feel like I was never going to make money in the e-commerce business and that it was a horrible idea from the start to begin with? Yes. did I give up in doing e-commerce as a whole and not try to look for an alternative? Of course not. I like to call it a hiatus. Never give up and keep going on, no matter how uncomfortable or in a bad mood you are in. Just because another door closes doesn't mean another won't open. Almost a year went past, and during May of 2020, I was looking to buy a game for my brother as a birthday present. And I know for a fact he enjoys the FIFA video game series. So I planned to buy the newest edition of FIFA for his birthday. However, I wanted to get it on the cheap. And at that time, it was $25 to $35 retail value. So I found a website called G2A. G2A is a digital marketplace that sells gaming products for prices that are more cheap than other digital gaming marketplaces. G2A offers cheaper prices since there are many individual sellers offering a different price for the game. I went on to G2A and found that someone was selling the game for $15, which was the cheapest price there was at the time, and I purchased it immediately. I could not believe people were selling games like these for such a low price and profiting off of it at the same time. During that moment, I thought to myself, what if I become a seller on G2A as well? And that's exactly what I did. The hiatus was over. I got back up on my feet, even if it took me almost a whole year to find out what was the next business venture I was going to invest my time, money, and effort into. I knew this time I would finally be getting my money up online. Eventually, I applied to become a seller on G2A, and let me tell you, if you were a teenager trying to make money, G2A was the best place to begin. You didn't have to fill out anything with your social security or fill out taxes with all that personal information stuff or any of that other complicated nonsense, which you're going to have to eventually do if you want to start a full-on business. The only condition G2A had was that you could no longer sell once you made over 1,000 euros. And in USD, that's around $1,133. You also needed an ID, which yes, I understand you gotta be 18. However, if you convince your parents like I did, which I am very grateful for to this day, in order to become a seller, and to this day, I don't regret it. I would make money, but instead of using United States currency, they used euros, which overall has more value than the US dollar since multiple countries in the continent of Europe use the currency. So I was literally getting my money up making a currency that's more valuable than the US dollar. The next step was to find out where am I going to buy these games for a wholesale price to sell. I eventually came across a website called Humble Bundle. Now, to explain what role Humble Bundle plays in order for me to get my money up, it's quite simple. Humble Bundle is a website that sells a bundle of games, and these games are claimed on the Steam website. If you try to buy the games that Humble Bundle is offering directly on Steam itself, you would be paying way more compared to Humble Bundle's price, which is a ridiculously cheap price. And get this, they split their profits with the game developers and mostly charities. You could sell those games for a lower than retail price and profit off of it, making your money back, which is exactly what I did. When I went on Humble Bundle, there was this deal I could not pass up. 50 games for the price of $20. Now that is a steal of a deal. The best bargain in the history of bargains, if I do say so myself. One of the best investments I have made in the history of my e-commerce investments. That makes me think back to when I started a Shopify store and was put to shame after failing. Then getting back up on my feet, starting e-commerce in a different method and succeeding. I had many games that I could sell, and the profit was so massive, I immediately bought this bundle knowing that it was impossible to not make my money back. A week later passed, and I made more than twice the profit than I did buying the bundle. I made a $40 profit, and I still had more games that I could sell or claim a few and play them on Steam. It's a win-win situation. For once in my life, I felt like I have done something crazy, productive in cash flow, something I was good at from the beginning, even if it took me a month to make that much, but for barely doing any labor whatsoever. It felt like I was cheating. I felt like the king of the world. Eventually, the day came where I could finally receive all my euros in full payment when I decided to use my debit card, which was the only way I had of making transactions online. I thought that I would work. Unfortunately, it wasn't approved since it wanted a business card, and the other options to withdraw my funds required me to put personal sensitive information, as previously mentioned, Social Security, so the IRS can track my transactions, and la neta, which means the overall fact of the situation was not about that life. And I was still a minor. Yes, I turned 18 recently and I started making money moves as soon as possible. However, the point is, there is no way to this day I would want the banks and other financial institutions reporting my income to the Internal Revenue Service so they can finesse a share of my profits. Not until I'm a fully grown ass man and I can finally start an official business will I get hassled by them, or heck, maybe I'll find a way to get my money up without the IRS intervening. What do I know? The future is bright for me. If I still take risks, keep being persistent and self-disciplined, I could take on the world, and so can you too. Remember, even in today's day and age, most companies just like me will do anything to keep Uncle Sam from taking a percentage of our profits, which is why there are legal loopholes in order to avoid paying lots in taxes. Eventually, there was only one option where I was going to be able to get my earnings without having to pay any fees whatsoever, or any taxes. And they are frankly the greatest thing on earth for doing online transactions without having to use a debit or credit card when purchasing goods online. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the gift card. It is one of the most convenient ways of making purchases, whether it be physical or online purchases, without having to go out and use your credit or debit card. And what do you know? G2A had gift cards, specifically Amazon gift cards, and especially in today's day and age, you can almost get anything you want from Amazon, or you could sell the gift card, code for physical cash, to a friend or family member. It's a win-win situation. This was my best choice of getting my investment up without having to withdraw it using G2A's payment feature that prevented me from getting my profits without Uncle Sam intervening and getting fees for the transaction. So, in the end of investing my time, money, and effort in the G2A, it frankly went way better than my previous attempt of starting an online business. And I'm sure the next business venture I invest in, whether it be online or traditional, will surely be way more successful than before. And with each attempt I got better and learned from the experiences. In the end, that's what matters, to keep going on and to learn from past mistakes and keep improving no matter how long it takes. Overall, investing can either affect you for better or for worse. Better if you learn from your mistakes, take the time and effort to review your mistakes, try a different approach, prepare for every inconvenience, and prosper from your failures. Worse if you don't overcome your failures and learn from them and keep going on to new ventures and repeating the same mistakes and situation, you dig a bigger ditch for yourself that will have a worse impact on you financially and mentally. This is just the surface of getting your investment up, as there are way more other complex methods of investing. This is just my experience of what investing is. Learning how to deal with losing from an investment, learning from the mistakes you previously made, and how to get back up and invest once more in order to prosper. Remember, there's only so much time to prosper from your current success until you eventually hit a roadblock, which will challenge you to make a choice that will determine your investment outcome for better or for worse.
How to get your debt up.
I think the one thing that makes everyone in America united with one another in a financial sense is the fact that the majority of us are consumers and are willing to go into debt by any means necessary to live the American dream as soon as possible by borrowing money from banks and accumulating debt, such as getting a mortgage on a house that you don't have the full amount to pay in that moment. So, you put a down payment and make monthly payments on your mortgage for the next 15 to 30 years. The use of credit cards to buy goods or pay off bills with money that you don't currently have at the moment, but will eventually pay it off at the end of the month. Car loans for the people that borrow money to buy a car for traveling convenience. Student loans for those that can't afford to go to college, but still have the ambition to pursue a career that will potentially get them out of poverty and become financially successful. Medical loans for those who are uninsured, and the hospital bills that come with an overwhelming medical bill. These are all debts that the majority of Americans partake in. Even the United States of America itself is in a ridiculous amount of debt to other countries. That's just how American becoming in debt is in America. I have never been in debt before, nor do I intend to be. If I want to buy something, I either buy it in full or try to negotiate a cash offer. Otherwise, I figure out how to get the money and keep saving up every dollar and cent I have, even if it takes me a good while. I'd rather wait than be in debt. However, many people I know have been into debt, not just due to taking out loans and not paying them back. I'm talking about people with checking accounts, not being able to manage their own money, with bad habits of reckless spending. But in their point of view, they think it's alright because they'll be getting their paycheck this week. But what if they don't have enough funds from that paycheck to cover the monthly fees that will be charged on their checking account? Regardless of how much money you have, there are purchases your checking account will make automatic transactions for, such as rent, phone bills, subscription services, etc. What happens if one day that person doesn't have sufficient funds in their checking account and suddenly it's charged? However, since they don't have the full amount of money to pay it off, this person is now in the negatives and now owes the bank money because they were the ones who had to pay it off instead. Now that the individual owes the bank money, and the bank will continue to charge them an extra fee of $30 to $35 and will keep charging them the same amount on a daily basis if they don't pay off all of their recurring charges as soon as possible. This person now owes more money than they initially did. This is a loan called an overdraft fee, which in this situation, if your checking account has insufficient funds, aka no money, the banks will lend you their money to pay it off. However, you will have to pay the bank off instead by paying off the original debt with the additional fees. Did I mention before that the fees is $30 to $35 daily, and this type of fee can end your whole financial career? The banks thrive off of this type of debt, making billions of dollars every year due to irresponsible people not being able to have sufficient funds in their checking account for recurring charges or just regular charges in general. The solution to this problem is keeping track of your money and transactions daily and having enough money to pay off your fees. I found out about this type of debt making billions of dollars every year due to irresponsible people not being able to have sufficient funds in their checking account for recurring charges or just regular charges in general. The solution to this problem is keeping track of your money and transactions daily and having enough money to pay for your fees. I found out about this type of debt when one of my peers from high school I was talking with about finance mentioned their financial situation to me, explaining how they spent way over of what they had in their checking account and had to pay an overdraft fee worth over $300 due to their poor, atrocious money management skills and owed over 300 United States dollars. The reason why I mentioned the price twice is because imagine being a teenager with lacking self-discipline and managing their own finances, and eventually they don't have the sufficient funds to pay off a poor choice of transactions. Next thing you know, the banks will charge you fees for more than it's worth, and the fees will keep growing until you pay it all off in one go.
Imagine that reaction of the parents, especially if you let the fees grow in the hundreds. I wouldn't be surprised if their heads started spinning off and the belt comes off, and someone starts getting their ass whooped. This situation could have all been prevented if people, and especially in today's youth, specifically my generation, Gen Z and millennials, would take the time and effort to develop more common sense and self-discipline and attempt to save their money up and be stingy as possible with their money in order to prevent their debt from getting up. This wouldn't be a situation in the first place. Did you know? Once you become 18, you can easily apply for a credit card and start taking out small loans, easy peasy, especially in today's day and age when it is very easy to acquire a credit card once you become an adult. And don't even get me started on the ridiculous amount of money they'll give you for a student loan. But as soon as you ask for a business loan, they'll hesitate approving the loan for the money, even if your borrowing price is lower than the student loan.
Why are banks less likely to borrow you money for your business? It's because business loans do not have any money back guarantee, unlike student loans that can be reimbursed due to the fact they are backed by the US government. If you borrow money from a college tuition loan and cannot pay the loan back, the government fully reimburses whichever bank or financial institution you borrowed from. And the government also gives them the interests they would have made off of you taking out that loan as well. So it's a win-win situation, which is why college tuition prices are expensive, since the government is giving out money for college tuition in loans, grants, scholarships to almost everyone and their grandma. This was the main reason why colleges upped the price, since they knew damn well they had all the leverage, and no matter how expensive the tuition was, the government would cover the tuition money to the debtor, regardless of the price. This was every financial institution and college's opportunity to make billions. Heck, not even that, the student loans debts combined is over $1 trillion, which is a ridiculous amount. Now, you could blame the majority of people who willingly took the loan in the first place, which you are right to do so, because they have no idea whatsoever how to drive their money. However, this isn't the worst part yet. Not even the icing on the top of the cake. If you thought a bunch of young adults aren't responsible to handle debt, just wait till you find out how much our government is in debt for. As of February of 2022, the United States is around $30 trillion in debt due to deficits, which is money the government doesn't get back due to overspending budgets in certain departments that they operate. But, fortunately for them, they can produce as much legal currency as needed in order to pay back the deficits they owe, so they can raise the debt barrier as much as they like without having to worry. However, there is only so much money the United States can produce before the value starts to inflate. The United States government also offers bonds that anyone and their ma can buy, no matter where you are in the world. They allow this in order to recover the money from their deficits as well. That's why you always hear people talking about how the United States is in debt to many countries, especially China, because they buy lots of United States bonds. Not only that, but I think the most sketchiest methods the United States government does in order to recover their deficits is taking out money from Social Security funds, which should be a huge concern for the American people, since the fund's purpose is to provide older people income after retirement in order to rest easy, since you can only be so young and work for so long. It's one thing for individuals to be responsible for their financial situation, but for the government to interfere with something that many Americans rely on and have contributed paying for decades just for your income to be tainted with is a very fucked up situation that could happen in a few decades down the road. This is another reason why people should look into alternatives such as 401ks, investing in bonds, CDs, stocks, and figure out how to build a passive income. The most important method when getting your money up is something that will always aid you, no matter in what situation, is to save your money up. Saving your money up is literally one of the most simple but important things you can do with your money. No debate whatsoever. As long as you can save it and can have discipline to hold your urge to splurge, you will now be financially well off than the majority of people. Now, how does one use debt to their advantage instead of it being an inconvenience? Here's an idea. Instead of taking out a mortgage for a single family home for yourself, how about instead you take out a mortgage on a multi-family home worth $150,000. However, you put a down payment for $20,000. The house has 2 units total, and the mortgage is around $800 a month. But you charge $950 for both the units, which is a total of $1,900, and minus the $800 you gotta pay for your mortgage, you're now left with $1,100 in profit, which is a great investment if you ask me, since the rent money is going to cover the cost of the mortgage, and in the next 2 years, you will make back the $20,000 and more money for years to come. As long as you got good relations with your tenants and both parties cooperate, you will be successful in your real estate venture. The best thing about having a mortgage is that you don't need to pay the full price in order to operate and own the property. All you have to do is make a down payment, which means you can own many properties and pay a partial amount of the original price for the properties and pay the rest back in monthly payments while making massive profits. This, in my opinion, is the best way to use debt and loans to your advantage. In order to get your money up while getting your debt down all at once, there's many other ways of making money from debt, such as debt collection agency, which means buying people's debt for a wholesale price from banks when they simply don't want to deal with the debt burden themselves, so they sell it at a dirt cheap price to debt collection agencies. So they can go on a manhunt instead for these people and give them an ultimatum, such as, you can either pay me half of what you owe and we go our separate ways, or we'll send you to court and have your wages and assets garnished. Unfortunately for me, I don't have that much experience in those areas to explain in debt yet. However, there are many more methods of turning debt into profit at the end of the day, regardless of how bad you want something, and will do anything to accomplish it as soon as possible, without having a second thought or repercussions. Take some time to consider how debt will impact your life. Is it really worth the risk of becoming financially in debt in the long run for something you might have to finance and make monthly payments for the next 5 to 15 years? Will getting your debt up either benefit you as soon as possible, or can you just wait a while and save more money until you're able to buy the things you desire without having to finance it or taking out a loan? How to get your drive up. Rome wasn't built in one day, and the same goes for this book. I started writing Get Your Money Up, Not Your Funny Up back in April 17th of 2021, due to the fact that I spent almost all my life learning about money, so much that I started many different hustles and developed some money-making methods in order to get my money up. Which is why I wrote this book, so I can share my findings with others to aid them in their pursuit of getting their money up as well. I also want to contribute something of value since you only live once and death is inevitable. However, books and the words in it are forever immortal, due to the fact that even 100 years from now on, there will still be people reading books that will use and gain the knowledge from a person that is long gone from this world. Looking back at all of my progress, I never thought I would be able to finish this book at all. I never wrote a book before, so I had no clue where to start when developing Get Your Money Up, Not Your Funny Up. All I knew is if I wanted to achieve my goal, I had to take action immediately, and I started writing from then on. Once my book is completely done, I don't even know how people will even react to the book, and if they will obtain money. All I know is that I had the drive and self-discipline to be persistent enough to write almost everything I knew about getting my money up for about 2 years now. I know that my writing skills don't meet the standards of other books that also provide knowledge on how to obtain wealth, but I could care less. My intention for making this book was to get straight to the point on how to get your money up, and as long as the majority of people can understand what I'm trying to explain, I have achieved my goal for this book. This book's target demographic is not book critics or liberals. This book is for the people who barely get by working a 9-to-5 job in order to provide for their family, or themselves who are tired of the same routine and want to achieve financial freedom. This book is for all the young people that live in poverty that want to take matters into their own hands in order to become self-sufficient with not just managing their own finances for themselves and getting their money up as soon as possible, but as well self-improving their values and skills in order to accomplish things for themselves and become self-made. Because, unfortunately, not everybody has the best parents that make the best decisions for their kids or themselves, whether it be financially or ethically. This book is for the young adults that get kicked out of their parents' house and have no idea how to survive on their own and need some guidance to get their money up and manage finances as soon as possible. This is for the people that messed up and had children way too early at a young age, or weren't ready for the responsibility and now need to get their shit together to provide for their newfound out of wedlock family. This book is for the people that immigrated from their home countries who came from nothing and want to become financially successful so they can live the American dream, but have no clue where to start. This book is for the people who are tired of their current situation and are tired of being surrounded by profligates, which in simple terms are people that have no ambition or drive whatsoever and engage in unproductive activities, and you yourself want to find advice and people that will lead you on the path to change your life for the better. I think people today have no drive whatsoever, which is why I think the majority of people are depressed. However, most people don't understand the main key reason of why they have depression in the first place. I think people understand depression in the wrong way, which makes matters even worse. My definition of depression is when your brain releases a chemical in your body that makes you feel overwhelmed to a point where you start becoming sad and uncomfortable, which causes you to lose your sanity. So it forces you to change your current situation and fix it up as soon as possible, which for this instance is a huge drive. It's a huge drive because if you don't like your current situation and you don't do anything productive to fix it, you're going to get more depressed. Working out 5 days a week, which will boost your confidence, thus improving your morale, which gets rid of your depression and improves your body physically. If you don't do something in order to improve your life, such as, believe it or not, reading books will help you develop skills that will benefit you mentally as well financially, like the book you're reading right now. However, in order to accomplish your goals and ambitions, you need to develop self-discipline in order to keep yourself in check and hold yourself accountable when you carelessly overindulge in addictions such as playing video games for an overwhelming amount of time, overindulging on alcoholic beverages, which will cause you to make more bad choices along the way. Spending too much time on social media for long amounts of hours looking at what activities people are currently doing instead of focusing on yourself and working towards skills that will benefit you in the long run. Make sure that you develop habits of sleeping in as early as possible. This will improve your morale and decrease your depression because at the end of the day, the only person that really wants to see you succeed in life and become the best version of yourself is you. Let's be honest here. Nobody else has the same drive to see you succeed in life than you yourself. So make sure you go out there and make something of yourself. Prove to everyone preying on your downfall wrong. However, if you don't do anything productive to counteract your depression, it's only going to get worse, and no antidepressant pills or therapy will help you fully get rid of your depression. In order to get rid of it, you will need to set goals for yourself and build up the commitment and drive to accomplish them in order to help yourself to be in a better situation physically and financially. Take a look at your current situation, review your problems, and try to fix them one by one, even if it takes days, months, or years. You have to do it regardless in order to better yourself and to get rid of the feeling of depression. Depression is an ultimatum, something that forces you to change your situation as soon as possible or continue to suffer persistent sadness that gets worse over time. Think of it like that. The more you don't pay it off with doing productive things or hobbies that benefit you physically or mentally, the bigger it gets. The more you lose your insanity and begin to make poor life-changing decisions from emotions instead of using logic and common sense to make good decisions. Regardless of what religion or beliefs you have, I believe there is one fact that we can all agree upon, which is that you only live once, which is why I value my time and have such a drive to achieve financial freedom.
and to accomplish something that will be acknowledged by people even when you're long gone from this world. Hundreds of years from now, people will still remember you for your knowledge and contributions you may bring to the world, whether it be music, art, technology, or a company you founded that still provides value in the future. And even your morals and values and who you stood for as a person could affect the future. These types of contributions bring such great meaning into not just your life, but to others as well, due to the fact that your influence of whatever you contribute to society might just impact them to become the next iconic, innovative, successful, or influential person of their time. I think everyone should become successful and start their own legacy or die trying. This is another key reason why I decided to write a book on getting money. So when the day comes that I am no longer on the face of the earth, my most valuable asset that I have will still be around, which is my knowledge, including my methods on how to get your money up, and providing my values and morals. Basically, my whole thought process of who I am as a person will be forever lasting and permanent in this book, hopefully affecting the lives of a good amount of people long after I'm gone. So before I finally finish what I have started, I want to ask you something that may take lots of thinking and processing. What do you live for, and what would you do to accomplish your goals, whether it be small or big, and will you finish what you started like I have? What are you willing to do in order to obtain the things that only you could dream of? How many sacrifices will you have to make, such as spending less time having fun and spending more time into completing your specific goals, even if it may take a long time to master or accomplish? What are the overall challenges you must face and endure that may be uncomfortable, such as saving money and living below your means and cutting off daily luxuries and activities in order to accomplish such goals? How about even risking your own goals and well-being, as well, including risking relations with friends and family in order to achieve your ambitions? Whether it be getting your money up to have a better quality of life, or to accomplish something you have been aspiring to do since childhood, the world is yours, but for only so long. So what will you do to leave your mark on this world before your time runs out?